This episode is brought to you by the Fairway Times, your go-to golf media website, with articles covering every corner of the game, from the PGA Tour to the latest in equipment. Subscribe today using the link in the show notes, and you'll receive a free mental performance golf guide delivered straight to your inbox, guaranteed to have you shooting lower scores in no time. Visit fairwaytimes.com. That's FWYtimes.com. Now, let's get into the show.
Waited for years. Many doubted we'd ever see it. But here it is. The return to glory.
This is the Fairway Times. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fairway Times podcast. Today we have a super exciting show. We have Brandon Holtz as a guest later in the episode. 2025 Mid-Am champion, just played in the Masters, and we asked him some just very, very hard-hitting questions about what it looks like, what his U.S. Open prep kind of is entailing, as well as some cool mental performance questions, and just asked him to kind of describe the feelings out at Augusta. So super excited for you guys to watch that. That will be clipped in at the end. But for now, I want to jump right in and talk about the Zurich Classic. The Fitzpatrick brothers take home the crown, and Matt Fitzpatrick has now won 3 out of the last 4 events and jumped to the top of the FedEx Cup points. What just an unbelievable run. It is the first guy this year that has won 3 events. And just a super cool weekend. The Zurich is the only team event on the PGA Tour schedule, which in my opinion, I think we need more of these because they're just so fun to watch. And it's super fun to watch PGA Tour players play best ball and play scramble format, because all of us amateurs that just have fun playing golf, there's a high likelihood that you've played in a 4-man or a 2-man charity scramble. And I'd just like to point out that they shot 57 on Saturday's best ball round, the Fitzpatrick brothers. And this just kind of shows you that when the 4 guys that are 70 years old at your local charity tournament card like a 46, it's just not, like, that's just not reasonable. I mean, 2 PGA Tour players are miles better than 4 guys that are a 5 handicap even. So I think in scramble tournaments, in charity style events, it's just like we should maybe use this as more of like a benchmark, because this was the course record and this was the most dominating best ball performance of all time on the PGA Tour. So just kind of a cool side note. TPC Louisiana looked like an extremely just fun course. That's the only way I know how to describe it. Kind of like all the rest of Louisiana. It's just fun and everybody's there having a super good time. A side note that not a lot of people knew, which is obviously Matt was coming off a victory on the PGA Tour, but Alex, his brother, had also just won on the DP World Tour. So they were both like arguably probably the 2 hottest players coming into this event. And when they won this event, when Alex rolled in the final putt, it did get a little hairy and close towards the end. He secured his tour card for the next 2 years. So just a very cool moment for the brothers. And going into the final round, right, it looked like a comfortable victory. They had a 4-shot lead. And then they actually lost it on the back 9 to Christopher Reelton and Chris Ventura, who made 3 eagles on alternate shot on Sunday, and they surged to 30 under, which was just insane. They also shot 65 to kind of tie the low mark in alternate shot for the week. And it was a remarkable round that really came out of nowhere, but it put a lot of pressure on the Fitzpatrick brothers. So Fitzpatrick kind of recovered. Matt stuck that bunker shot from 35 yards to probably 13 to 14 inches, I would say. It was tough to tell on the TV. And Alex, knowing that he had to make birdie, would secure that tour card, kind of just rolled it in to secure the victory. Matt, one of his cool quotes I saw was, "To win a team event on the PGA Tour with my brother, I don't know if it gets better than that. That's how special it feels." So just overall, I mean, this guy has to be the hottest player. And we're coming up to some cool events like Quail Hollow is coming up. So just really, really fun. And I think the other thing, right, is we're talking about a premier venue as well for the U.S. Open in Shinnecock. So there's just a lot of guys that are kind of hanging around the top, and Matt Fitzpatrick is proving that he is a top 3 now player in the world with Scotty and Rory. Matt becomes the PGA Tour's first 3-time winner of the season, which I mentioned a little earlier. For Alex, this secures his tour card, like we just mentioned, and it also gains him entry into all 4 remaining signature events in the season and a spot in the PGA Championship, which is awesome. Matt's exemption grows to the maximum 5 years through 2031. So just overall, is Max Fitzpatrick a kind of on a Hall of Fame caliber hot streak right now? He is in historic form, and I just want to keep watching it because it's super fun. I love kind of like the longer backswing that Matt has. It's just extremely fun to watch on film. And shout out to Bettinardi Putters because they are having a moment with Matt Fitzpatrick. Normally kind of a putting company that is reserved for, in my brain, scratch country club players that have a ton of money, and now they're having a lot of success, probably the most they've ever had at the highest level on tour. So overall, just extremely great weekend of golf, and excited to keep watching Matt Fitzpatrick's drive. And now we get to see Alex on the PGA Tour. So very, very fun. The other thing I wanted to cover is the PGA Tour Myrtle Beach Classic is coming up, and they are giving a spot to one of the YouTube golfers. So if you didn't catch this yesterday on Grant Horvat's channel, I think they were in North Carolina or South Carolina. I don't remember if they said the country club they were playing at, but they are vying for a spot to play on the PGA Tour. So the format is as follows. The first day, which is already over, and obviously I know they already know this, but for YouTube purposes, the first day was match play. And so obviously Wesley Bryan is the commissioner because he cannot play and is banned from the PGA Tour, but the pairings were extremely awesome. So first day in the morning, we had George Bryant against Micah, where Micah had one of the most historic upsets, I think, in YouTube golf history, taking down George Bryant, and Grant Horvat taking down Peter Finch. Then we had Sam Hung against Luke Kwan, with Luke Kwan securing a spot. Sam kind of had him on the ropes for a while, which was really fun to watch, and he's just a really entertaining YouTube golfer. And it was kind of ironic because Sam had just got done caddying for Luke. I don't remember where they said a New Zealand Open, I believe. And so that was really cool to see if the caddy could kind of take down him. And then Chance Taylor, the golfer out of West Virginia, going against Ryan Ruffles. Ryan Ruffles just dominated the match. You could see Chance was pretty open about that in West Virginia. He had only played a couple rounds coming out of winter. And so you could see that his game is definitely there. This was kind of, I would say, his big debut on a big time channel. And the guy is just honestly so fun to watch because he hits like only these extremely low bullets, but he tees them up. So he tees up like an iron. Let's say he's hitting 3 iron off the tee. He'll tee it up and then strike it down into the ground and leave a divot, which is just super cool to watch because it almost creates the effect that the ball's almost hitting the ground and skipping. So Ryan Ruffles, though, it was just a tough matchup. I mean, the guy has had, I think, 10 or 15 PGA Tour starts. So it's it was a tough matchup, and Chance's game obviously wasn't really, I don't think it was in form for it, but I want to see more of this guy because it's just his game and the amount of, a lot of these guys with YouTube golf is defined by the shot tracers, right? Because it's very, very hard to track the ball at the highest level on YouTube golf without multiple, 5 different camera angles with professionals standing up in towers. But Chance is so fun to watch because he hits these massive cuts and draws. And so the shot tracer is just extremely cool and fun to watch. And I'm sure it's not that drastic in person. To you and I, an average golfer would probably just look like oh, he hit a nice, a good looking cut there. But versus dudes like Grant Horvat and Peter Finch, who like hit the ball extremely straight, George Bryant, like very minimal right to left or left to right movement, just his tracers, it makes the whole thing fun to watch. And Ryan Ruffles, because Ryan Ruffles, I had watched a lot of his game, but this was very clear that like he is just hitting high Rory McIlroy draws now. And so I would definitely recommend going out and checking out that video. And the next video is slotted to come out on Thursday on the Bryan Brothers channel, and they are playing 18-hole stroke play between those 4 winners of match play that I just mentioned, and that person will be playing in a PGA Tour event in Myrtle Beach. Pretty cool that the PGA Tour allows that. Last note, would love to just see Wesley Bryan back in some capacity, because although I know his floor is probably the lowest, we all know that his ceiling is also the highest, and this guy has the ability to play at the highest level and win tour events. Okay, before we get into the 2026 NFL Draft, this segment is sponsored by the Fairway Times, fwytimes.com, your golf publication, to keep up to date on the PGA Tour, equipment, golf cognitive performance, and we even have a segment on watches called Par for the Wrist. A lot of you know that I'm a collector and it's a passion of mine, so go check it out right now, fwytimes.com, and subscribe to receive your free mental performance golf guide, guaranteed to lower your scores in no time. And now let's jump into the draft. So, guys, super exciting night last week. The 2026 NFL Draft, who a lot of people were talking about was going to be one of the most boring and, low kind of stakes in history, it turned out to actually be really fun. So we already knew about the first pick, right? Mendoza is going to Las Vegas. I think we've all kind of heard the talk that Tom Brady can kind of see himself in Mendoza. So Fernando Mendoza, I believe, was a 2 or a 3-star coming out of Miami, Florida in high school. Didn't really have a lot of offers. I think he had 1 Ivy League offer, and eventually he made it to Cal, which is pretty cool because my first internship in college was for the Cal Berkeley football department. So that is really, really cool to see. When you watched him play at Cal, it was immediately like, this guy is a level above what we're used to for Cal football. Obviously, Jared Goff was there. Some amazing players. Aaron Rodgers have come through those doors. But in recent Cal history, this guy was a level above. So that was very cool to see. Eventually made his way to Indiana, where Curt Cignetti snagged this man up and created a monster. And I think the cool thing that I like about Mendoza is, he kind of reminds me a lot of Joe Burrow in college. And Joe Burrow was one of the, the best college football players to ever live. So not in that regard, but in regards of like Joe Burrow doesn't really have one super elite tool. And like kind of these prospects, like when Anthony Richardson was coming out, it was like, this guy's a physical freak with a monster arm. Mendoza and Burrow don't have that. But I like these style of quarterbacks because it's like they just make the right play at the right time, and their decision making is always very, very on point. So super excited for Vegas. It's looking like Kirk Cousins will start the year there, which is great for Mendoza. I hate when rookies of bad teams get thrown in immediately and are just kind of thrust into it, because it just never really works out in that team's favor. David Bailey getting taken 2 overall to the Jets. I think this was just kind of the safe pick, has the opportunity to be an elite edge rusher as the Jets kind of are starting from scratch and really rebuilding. And this reminds me of a lot of when the Texans took Will Anderson. Aaron Glenn needs a guy that can kind of set the edge and just kind of be a dog and lead that defense. They obviously lost Sauce Gardner this year. So that Jets team just needs to rebuild from scratch, and I honestly think they made the right pick here. So I know there was a lot of talk of him or Arvell Reese, and I think I just liked the David Bailey film better. And I also think that in all reality, Arvell Reese could have a little bit of a higher ceiling, but I think they wanted a more traditional edge, and they got that. Let's talk about the stupidest team in the NFL, the Arizona Cardinals taking Jeremiah Love at 3. I don't really understand this pick. I mean, this team is broken in more ways than one. Jacoby Brissett apparently isn't even like showing up to training camp or whatever this time of year is, OTAs. And I don't really know why. So Kyler Murray is now a Viking. So I guess you have to roll with Jacoby Brissett. But I didn't think that running back was really the problem. Trey Benson has shown flashes. Obviously, James Conner probably has 1 or 2 more solid years in him, even with the injury. So at this point, it kind of felt like, to me, that the Cardinals should have just traded out this pick and got an absolute haul, because they need so much on that team to be competitive in that division. So is Jeremiah Love probably the best overall player in this draft? Yes. But so was Ashton Genty, and we see how that works when you put a running back on a team that just has no chance of success. So, also, running backs drafted in the top 3, I heard this really interesting stat that there's not a ton of success. Like, Saquon Barkley is one of the only successful running backs to ever be taken in the top 3, and there was one other, and it's an older famous running back. So I got to go back and look if it was AP, but just a very interesting thing to note, like, guys drafted this high do not have a ton of success. Carnell Tate goes 4 to the Titans. I really, really like this move. The Titans are gearing up to be really, really good. I am excited about that. I think Dable still is a good coach. I think Cam Ward has the ability to be good. I want to go back to something, though, with Brian Dable, because when that Giants team was really, really cooking, it was running a different style of offense with Daniel Jones, which was allow him to use his legs. Do not ask Daniel Jones to make super elite Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes throws. And then the next year, they thought that Daniel Jones had kind of taken the next step, and they changed the offense and made him throw a bunch, and he looked really, really bad. And I think that Dable should just design this Titans offense with that first real year of Daniel Jones in mind. Cam Ward is an elite thrower, but I'm not sure his development is really there yet. So if you can design it where now he has some weapons, right? He has Io Manor, now he has Carnell Tate. Calvin Ridley will still be there if he's ever healthy and on the field. I think there's just so much ability for Cam Ward to use his legs and really design that offense in a way for it to cook. And also, you have to just get Tony Pollard out in space. Let's stop trying to make him the traditional style running back. He's not. He needs to get out in space, and there needs to be another bruiser style to take the load off of him. But Carnell Tate, I think, is an absolute dog. Next, Ohio State legendary wide receiver. And I think the cool thing is this reminds me a lot of Amika, which is, Ohio State has that other guy that's going to be slotted to be the 1, 2, or 3 pick next year and is going to be a generational wide receiver. So Carnell Tate had to kind of play in that secondary role, but I still think those guys are extremely valuable in the NFL, just like Amika was to Mike Evans when he was on the field. Arvell Reese went to the Giants, wasn't really surprised by that. I think a very, very interesting one was when the Chiefs traded up. Now, for those of you that don't know, I'm a diehard LSU football fan, so I knew that Delane is an absolute dog. That's not the problem I have with it. The problem I have is that Sonny Styles was available, and I think Sonny Styles, after watching a lot of Ohio State football, has the ability to be a generational linebacker. And Delane could be a generational corner, okay. I'm just not sure that was priority need number 1 for the Chiefs. I could be wrong, but I just thought there's no way that you pass on Sonny Styles there. The flip side of that, though, is Dan Quinn gets his guy, and Sonny falls all the way down to 7, and the Commanders are once again, I think, going to be competitors with a healthy Jaden Daniels, one of the best backups in the league with Marcus. I think there's just so much to be excited about if you are a DC fan. Jordan Tyson goes to the Saints. super cool, giving Tyler Shuck another weapon. The problem I have with it is you drafted the most injury-prone wide receiver to the most injury-prone team. There is a high likelihood that Jordan Tyson and Chris Olave will just not be on the field at all. Like at the same time, there will just be no one once again out there for Tyler Shuck. So that was kind of a disappointment. Now, do I think Tyson is the most NFL ready wide receiver? Yes. But if he's not on the field, that all doesn't matter. So I'm not really sure how I like that pick. But also, if you're the Saints front office, you are not thinking about yourselves as an injury-prone location that's had problems with the medical personnel before. So, I mean, yeah, it's high risk, high reward. He could literally play 2 or 3 games a year. I like his profile. He's big. He's 6'2", 203, just an absolute kind of dog that can go get the football. I want to talk a little bit about, too, the Cowboys coming up to get Caleb Downs. Caleb Downs, for me, on my board, was a top 3 player. Probably a generational style safety. Reminded me a lot of when Kyle Hamilton came out. Just probably, honestly, with even a higher ceiling than Kyle Hamilton. Just a great fit for the Cowboys, and honestly, they made the right pick. The other big surprise in the first round, Ty Simpson being taken at 13 by the Rams. It is clear that Rams front office is gearing up for a Matthew Stafford retirement. Now, if I'm Matthew Stafford, would I be a little pet peeved? Yes. They were the best team last year in the NFL, and they should have honestly probably won a Super Bowl. And they just underachieved and had a couple bad games. And also Stafford was probably a little beat up. The problem is then if you're Stafford, you think we have to double down because I want to go get another ring before I retire. And instead, the front office is like, well, we're going to reach for a guy at 13 that was probably a borderline first-round pick. The Rams probably could have traded back at 25 and got this guy, unless there was talks that I wasn't hearing. But it's just a strange pick. I like Ty Simpson. He was actually better than Fernando Mendoza when he was healthy the first half of the college football season. And I like that he's an old school, just sit back there and sling it style quarterback because we don't get a lot of those guys anymore. The cool thing is that Sean McVay really does not need to change anything in the system once Stafford retires if he's still there, because Ty Simpson, in theory, should be identical to Matthew Stafford's game. So I think it's a good pick, but I think they reached. Ruben Bain, amazing edge rusher out of Miami, just an unbelievable pick to Tampa Bay. He is staying in the state of Florida. Ione out of Penn State, the best overall offensive guard, goes to the Ravens. As a Ravens fan, I'm absolutely ecstatic. This guy hasn't gave up a sack at Penn State for 2 years, which is just an insane stat to even fathom. So super excited about that for Lamar. Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end out of Oregon, goes to the Jets. Once again, I like the Bailey pick, the Sadiq pick, kind of a head scratcher for me. I think there was bigger needs there that needed to be filled, but I guess it does give Geno Smith a big, strong target to kind of go through this transition period, because if you're the Jets, you are still tanking next year to find your franchise quarterback. Other picks I really liked. In the 3rd round, the Baltimore Ravens go out and get Jacoby Lane. Finally, I've been pounding the drum. Lamar Jackson needs a big, strong alpha wide receiver. Does that, by the word alpha, do I mean he needs to be the number 1 on the team? No, but I want a basketball player that is not DeAndre Hopkins for when Lamar's scrambling, we're having a scramble drill. Jacoby Lane is 6'4", 205. Just an absolutely extremely high ceiling. The other pick I loved, Zachariah Branch, headed to Atlanta, giving Michael Penix just another target when he is healthy and ready to go. I watched this guy live at USC games. He is just an absolute dog. He reminds me a lot of Zay Flowers, and pairing him with Drake London, who's a big, strong wide receiver, it's the same thing I was just talking about in Baltimore. I truly feel like that is just an absolute ticket to having a lot of success. Drew Aller. I mean, can you just write the script any better? The Pittsburgh Steelers taking Drew Aller. They're just, anybody who lives in the state of Pittsburgh, if you play quarterback at even a halfway decent level, the Steelers will draft you. So if there's any Pittsburgh young quarterbacks that are in 6th grade, just don't ever leave the state and you will be a Steeler. I thought that was just a hilarious pick. I know for a while we were talking about Drew Aller as a guy that really could be a high up pick a couple years ago, and it just kind of never came to fruition, which is a bummer. But overall, I guess throw him in the quarterback competition. Nobody really knows what's going on with A-Rod. So, throw another young guy in the mix there, I guess. That kind of wraps up our NFL draft talk. Super excited for the season, super excited for dynasty and fantasy talk as we kind of come into this next phase as we are waiting through summer training camp. All right, so our next segment today, we are talking about, I wrote an article recently on fwytimes.com about 3 really keys that we can talk about when we're talking about playing better mental performance golf, right? And those things really go hand in hand. So the first thing I really want to talk about is everybody talks about the pre-shot routine, but how do you actually build yours and how do you actually build it for you? Because everyone is different, right? There are guys on the PGA Tour that take a long time and play slower. And do I recommend that? No, but they're PGA Tour players and that's what works for them. There's other guys like Ludwig that are extremely fast and just play at an extremely quick and in rhythm sequence. So I think a consistent pre-shot routine, it's not just a swing habit. It's a psychological trigger, and it signals your brain to shift from analytical and overthinking mode into automatic, performance mode. And elite players don't think their way through the shot. A lot of them feel their way through it. And what that means is the conversation with the caddy on the PGA Tour is analytical. They're talking through numbers, they're talking through win, they're talking through lie, and that is the analytical part of your brain. But once a decision is made about type of shot, shot shape, and club, once they go into the pre-shot routine, it's time to use your eyes. It's time to stand behind the ball, really build a photo. I like the word build. Build a photo of the style of shot you want to hit. And the other thing is, once you decide that style of shot, you need to be feeling in your practice swing, not just some random swing cue, but really how you're going to build that shot. For example, if you need to hit more of a low cut, okay, now in your pre-shot routine and built in your swing, maybe the club face just needs to feel slightly opened at address, and maybe you need to feel like your chest is covering the ball and create that feeling of a low fade. And instead of just, I'm going to go through my normal practice swing, I'm going to Joey cold cuts and take a chunk of turf out of the ground, and I'm not going to feel anything, then I'm going to try and hit the shot that I'm not even prepared for. So the brain really operates right on 2 different levels during this whole golf process, which is the conscious analytical mind that we just talked about, but it's terrible for execution. And then the subconscious motor system that runs train movements automatically, but is terrible for making decisions. So you really have to use both of those. Routines create in sports psychology what we call a trigger state, which is a repeatable mental and physical cue that tells the body, we've been here before, we know what to do. And what that does is a lot of people are like, how do you handle pressure? How do you handle distraction? You do and build a solid routine, because that is what cuts through pressure, fatigue, and distraction. And so I work with a lot of players, And I harp on routine, and we'll start and make, I'll start with something as simple as goal setting, a smart goal setting format. And all of a sudden they're telling me they want to win this event and they want to shoot 68 at this golf course. I'm like, no, 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 no. A process-oriented goal is what we need to build first. And a great example of that is I'm going to do my routine from start to finish, and if you're a scratch golfer, for 72 shots. And you would not believe how hard that is. You might get stuck on that for 3 months because golf takes so much amount of time, 4 to 4.5 hour round, staying in the fire. And in between shots, you could totally hang out with your buddies, joke around. I actually like that. But when it's time to actually lock in, can you lock in and do your routine from start to finish? And if there's a distraction in the middle of the routine, can you step off the ball and restart the routine and do it again? And most players cannot even achieve that of level 1. So build a routine that is really identical in length and sequence on every shot. Easy chip or a pressure putt, it doesn't matter. The consistency of the routine under low pressure is what makes it reliable under high pressure, guys. The next topic I want to touch on is managing the inner critic. Resetting after you hit a bad shot, after you shank one off the hosel. Because every golfer really has an inner critic. And after a bad shot, the brain wants to analyze, replay, and punish, which is exactly the wrong thing to bring into your next shot. So carrying emotional weight from a poor shot into the next one is one of the most common and costly scoring habits that I see in amateur golf. And it's what we call emotional contagion, which is one bad shot infects the next one and infects the next one. And what you really need to build is a deliberate reset strategy. So what does this really look like? First of all, we need a timetable. So a lot of swing coaches ask me, Colton, why do you let a player, slam the club down right after they hit a bad shot? You know why I do that? Because showing natural human emotion is normal. And if a player has to bottle that inside, it just builds up over time because they feel like, oh, I'm doing the right thing for my mental performance. Like that needs to come out. The problem is we can't let that just go on, kind of just like we talked about, and infect the rest of your round. So what I like to do is just 30 seconds. You get 30 seconds to be pissed off about it. And that's not a lot of time, but it allows you to, if you need to slam the club, if you need to, cuss a little bit to yourself, as long as it's not affecting players around you in a negative manner, as long as you're not throwing clubs into lakes and just being an idiot, right? I'm all for it because that emotion is natural and comes out. After that 30 seconds, it's time to really reset and get yourself into what I call the next phase, which is now I need to start looking for, as I'm walking up or driving in the cart, where my ball is, how it's lying, and how I'm going to execute the next shot. There's all these cool, crazy buzzwords in terms of mental performance. Oh, be in the moment. Oh, be in where your shoes are. And all of that is really true, but you have to have the strategies to quote unquote be here now. Otherwise, it's just never going to work in the game of golf. So the walk between shots is really not dead time after you hit a bad shot. It's reset time. And players who use it intentionally arrive at the next ball usually mentally clean and clear, right? So develop what a lot of us coaches call the parking lot strategy, which is after your emotional release window, mentally park the bad shot. And you can revisit after the round. You actually should revisit your bad shots after a round because you have to analyze what went wrong. If you hit 2 horrible shots that were sitting on downhill lies, you need to mentally take note of that and reflect on it in a post-round reflection and write it down, and then go practice downhill lies. But in the round is not the time to fix those problems. And that's a very, very hard concept for golfers that are always trying to improve and get better. In the round is not the time to improve. In the round is time to play the game of golf. So the parking lot strategy is you just parked your car. You hit a bad shot. When you go to leave that parking lot, though, the car can just stay parked, and that's okay. And then when we come back after the round, guess what? We can revisit that parked car, right? There's multiple cars that you get to pull out, 72 of them actually, throughout a round. So if you view each shot as you're, parking the car or pulling it out in the next one, it makes golf a lot easier. Topic number 3, which I want to touch on is very about the psychology of the word clutch, because I think it's an area that is talked about it a lot. Is this guy clutch, especially in baseball in the playoffs? Like, what does that mean? Guys like Randy Arozarena are some of the most clutch players in the history of baseball in the biggest moments, right? And in golf, we see this a lot too, right? Rory McIlroy a couple of years ago in the Masters, hitting that insane iron shot to whatever it was, 18 inches in the highest pressure moment. But I want to make something clear, which is being clutch is not the absence of nerves. It's the ability to perform despite them. And really what research shows us within sport and performance psychology is consistently shows that top performers don't experience less anxiety than average players. They've learned to interpret that anxiety differently. And we do this through reframing. And it's a very, very simple concept, but players struggle with this every single day at every level. I see it from elite level juniors to guys that are dabbling on the PGA Tour, which is instead of I'm nervous and feeling like something is wrong and leaning into that mentally, the mindset we have to lean into when we're down by one shot on 18 and we have a birdie putt is I'm nervous because this matters. And that energy, I can harness it and use it to win this event. I can use it and harness it to hit a good shot there. And what we call this in the field is anxiety reappraisal. And it's a very trainable skill. So it's something that also relates to the choking mechanism, because choking happens when a player becomes more outcome focused and lets their anxiety overtake them. So instead of reframing their anxiety as, hey, this nervous energy, I need to realize that this is here to help me and perform, versus when you feel the anxiety, oh my gosh, I have to execute this shot, which then makes you outcome focused and causes choking, right? Start thinking about the results, start thinking about making bogey, missing the putt. Oh my gosh, I doubled or tripled this. The rest of my round is ruined. And then everything really unravels. So I think the biggest actionable takeaway is before any high pressure shot, identify exactly one process cue to really occupy your mind. Not don't mess this up and not make this birdie. Something like, hey, smooth tempo here, or trust my line. A single focal point really keeps your brain out of the way and just lets your training and conscious mind take over and just perform, which kind of ties back into our first topic. So that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for listening, guys. Remember to go visit fwytimes.com and subscribe to receive our free mental performance golf guide, where I go over a lot of this. And it's super good information to have. And you can print out that guide and take it with you guys on your practice rounds. So, and it's completely free. It'll just get delivered right to your inbox, as our articles will when they come out. So thank you so much for listening. Hey guys, quick insert here. I completely forgot to add, I said it at the beginning, but at the end of this, I just wanted to add that now this will cut into the full Brandon Holtz interview. I also want to add that we did have some audio issues. He was in the car, it was pouring rain, and he was also dealing with a crying baby in the back. So just don't mind that. On the YouTube, his audio did cut out due to it was hailing so hard. His service was so bad. But the audio is all there. He has some great insights on mental performance, what it was like playing in the Masters, and also just his plan for the US Open, as well as him riding on a private jet, which is super cool, guys. So enjoy this interview of Brandon Holtz. Thanks so much. Brandon Holtz is sponsored by Wild Goat. You know that feeling 3 hours into a round, standing over a wedge, tuck pin, everything on the line, and your mind just drifts? That's not a swing problem. That's a focus problem. Most golfers try to fix it with coffee or an energy drink, and sometimes it works, but a lot of time you get the jitters early and crash right when it matters most. Wild Goat wanted to build something different. Their Focus Plus Hydration Gummy was made specifically for the demands of a golf round. Not the gym, not the track, golf. It combines alpha GPC and cognizin for sharp, clear focus, a small calibrated dose of caffeine with L-theanine to keep things smooth and steady, and electrolytes to keep you hydrated and mentally in it through 18 holes. No jitters, no crash, just presence. The kind that lets you stand over a hard shot and actually be there for it. Visit getwildgoat.com and use code FAIRWAYTIMES10 for 10% off your order. That's getwildgoat.com. And now into the Brandon Holtz interview. What is going on, everybody? Super exciting episode today of the Fairway Times. We have the 2025 Mid-Am champion, as well as he just played in the Masters, Brandon Holtz. Welcome to the show. How are you today, sir?
I'm good, guys. How you guys doing? I appreciate you having me on, and I'm gonna pull over for a second here. The storms just came running down, so I appreciate you, Colton, having me on, and I appreciate your understanding of everything going on. So here we are. I'm ready.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I just want to start by talk a little bit about your background and really how you started in the game of golf.
Yeah, no. Growing up, I was just I just wanted to play all the sports. You name it, I played it. My family, that's kind of how we were. I got what do I got? 3 brothers and a sister. We were all in sports, and golf was always kind of secondary for me. Basketball was number one. I liked the pace and pretty much the physicality of it, and that was just one thing that I loved. And golf was always again secondary, but got me out of the gym when I needed to get out of the gym. My dad was a golfer, so it was just one of those things that I could. One of those sports I could kind of lean back on when, maybe I had it too much on the basketball court. But, ended up playing Division I basketball at Illinois State University. Played there 4 years, and when I got done, I didn't feel like that competitive bucket was full. So when I got done, I transitioned to golf, and I was always kind of naturally good at golf. So I figured, what the heck, let's give it a shot, and put a little practice into it. Bounced around the mini tours for almost 4 years. My goal was give it 2 years, and if I was getting better, or seeing what the whole circumstance looked like, then I would continue to play. I made it to year 4, almost year 4, and I was just like, it was just time to give it up. Time to start doing something else. At that time I'm like 25 and don't have a dollar to my name, so it's like, okay, well, what are we going to do now? And and I was playing in these. I played on the Peach State Tour out of Georgia, so it wasn't anything sanctioned. It wasn't anything affiliated to any PGA Tour event. I didn't have any sponsors. I didn't have any club deals or nothing like that. So, although I was playing professionally, as you want to call it, it was just a glorified rec league. It's basically what it was. So yeah, I did that for almost 4 years, and then I kept my pro status just to play in the Illinois State Open, which I had some success with. I finished second a couple times, which are good paychecks, and I'm looking at it as a working man. Like, if I could go play golf, make a few bucks here and there, why the heck wouldn't you? Then I got to the point where I had 2 kids, wasn't playing enough to continue that, playing in the Illinois Open, and I decided to get my amateur status back. And I wouldn't say that my buddies talked me into playing in the U.S. Mid-Am, but it wasn't really something on my radar. It's just like, okay, let's go play in it, see what happens. And it was kind of a bunch of mini goals. Like, all right, let's make it through the qualifier. And then once I made it through the qualifier, let's make it to match play. Made it to match play, and then it's like, okay, but when I got to match play, it was like, oh, it's 1-on-1. Golf's the mentality is a little bit different. And then, obviously, fortunate enough to play well at the right time, and ended up winning the Mid-Am. Got to play in the Masters a couple weeks ago, and then the U.S. Open here in a month.
Do you think that coming from a different sport background, because I do as well. I played baseball at the NCAA level, and I feel like at times it's almost gave me an advantage to just go be an athlete versus a lot of my buddies that played golf from a very young age. It was just golf their whole life because it's so specific and takes so much skill. So do you think that that kind of gave you an advantage to just say, hey, I could go be an athlete and whatever happens out here happens?
Yeah, I mean, no doubt. I mean, I kind of pride my game on that. You know, it's not so much, you know, I guess you can call it unorthodox, but I mean, as far as the mechanicals go, I feel like I get a pretty decent swing. But like you said, I'm an athlete. You know, I'm gonna go hit the driver when I feel like I need to hit the driver, and I feel like that was one of the things at the mid am is these guys are playing the golf course. I'm playing who I'm playing, and I was hitting driver all the time, and some of these guys were hitting irons off the tee just to get in a good placement. But the driver is one of my strong suits. Not necessarily at Augusta. We were kind of battling some driver deals there, and we're going to figure that out for the U.S. Open. But uh, you know, I was out there to beat you. I wasn't really out there to play the golf course, right? And I think that secondary mentality of being a basketball player, uh, you know, helped me understand that I don't have to be necessarily a golfer to get through. And I the whole week I was out there, I was like, I don't understand why these guys are hitting irons off the tee. I mean, I do, but I don't. Like, pars aren't necessarily going to win. And I'm talking, the top 64 of the mid am. Like, you got to play golf, you got to make birdies. Like, pars, aren't necessarily going to win. So I took that mentality as to let's go make as many birdies as we can, and it worked out.
I think when I told some of my followers that you were coming on the pod, we talk about all sports on this podcast, primarily golf, but we dabble into other sports. Everybody wanted to know where your fandom lies. Were you rooting for Illinois in the Final Four? Are you a Cubs fan? Like, where does your fandom lie across sports?
So I'm not. I mean, yeah, I'm a Cubs fan. I'm not. I'm a big playoff fan. Blackhawks hockey, Cubs in baseball. The Bulls, I grew up a Michael Jordan fan, hands down. He's definitely the best basketball player in the world and ever, in my opinion. But yeah, no, I'm a pretty much Chicago-based, I guess, fan. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of where it is. What was the other part of that question?
Illinois. Were you rooting for Illinois, or was that your rival in college in the Final Four?
So there's a little bit of bad blood for Illinois. I was obviously rooting for Illinois, just being a home state kid, but at Illinois State, we were pretty good really our sophomore, junior, senior year, and Illinois never wanted to play us. And I understand. It's a lose-lose for Illinois. They're supposed to beat us, but if they get beat by us, it's a bad deal for them. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, honestly, I thought Illinois was playing the best basketball in the tournament, and they just, I don't think they had their best game in that last, in the Final Four. But yeah, I mean, of course I'm an Illinois fan. There was a little like, punks didn't want to play us at Illinois State. Totally understand. I mean, it's a lose-lose for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Talk us through, what day did you get to Augusta? Did you get there on Monday like some guys do? What was it like? Are you flying into the normal Augusta airport where there's 60 private jets lined up? Like, what does that even look like?
Yeah, so I was super fortunate. I got a friend in town, kind of a friend of a friend and a friend, I'll call him, that offered a private jet to us, and that's kind of what they do. They're in the FBO business, and we were able to fly in on Saturday on a private jet, which, that was our first time flying private jet, which was, I mean, holy cow, I'd do that anytime. It's like driving cars for these guys. But we were able to fly into Augusta, my family, my kids, made it super easy. The Masters, they send you a car and it's right on the runway. So you literally hop off the jet and hop on the car and you go. We did not necessarily see the lineup of jets there just because we showed up on the Saturday before. The jets all come, Monday to, basically Sunday. No, it was great. I mean, we had a good time, and we were, again, very fortunate. That was definitely not something I was expecting by any means. The funny thing is my wife and I were trying to figure out, like, do we hop in the car and drive? Do we, fly commercially. We're trying to figure this out because for us, it was only like a 12-hour drive. So it's not, we do that all the time, well, I'd say all the time. But when spring break in Florida, we'll drive down to Destin, 12 hours in the car. It's a pain in the ass with 2 young kids, but, we do it. So yeah, no, it was fun. It was a good time. And, it was kind of like a little, life of the pro tour guys, right? And I'd like to do it again.
A lot of people really love listening to this show because we talk a lot about sport and performance psychology. That's my profession, working with golfers in that range. And I want to know, just like at the highest level, what was it like just preparing yourself from a cognitive standpoint to get ready to play in the biggest tournament in golf?
I mean, I was trying to do anything I could and everything I could, but you just, when it comes to the mental part of, being an athlete, you try to understand and be who you are. But when you don't know, I mean, we don't know what we don't know, right? And a lot of the times, being a basketball player my entire life, I pretty much understood like what basketball looked like at the highest level and at the lowest level, at the high school level, junior high, all that stuff. But coming to Augusta, like that was I mean, we're talking about, 88 guys playing, 88, and we're talking about the top probably 60, 65 players in the world. It was a whole different ball game. And the fans were much more appreciative, and that's the other thing. I've been going out there since 2004 because my dad won badges. So we kind of understood what the expectation was, but we didn't really understand what the expectation was inside the ropes. And it was just a whole nother feeling, a whole nother understanding of what was going on. The what I guess what I'm glad to take into the U.S. Open is the fact that I understand what that whole week looks like now, which I didn't understand, obviously being there for the first time. So I think, well, it'll be a different experience for sure, for the U.S. Open.
Talk to me a little bit about what it's like for your dad, right? This is like the highest, your dad might be super knowledgeable about golf, but all of a sudden you're a caddy at Augusta. Like that's
Sure.
Another level, man, of like course knowledge, just a lot of different things. Like what was that like? And were you guys able to just kind of work through things together?
Yeah, no, I mean, my dad's a good golfer, but it's not, we didn't go down there thinking like he's going to have all the answers. We went down there as father-son, right? And that's what I wanted it to be. In the U.S. Open, my brother's going to caddy for me at the U.S. Open. It's going to be brother. So it's not like we're going down there. This could potentially be a once in a lifetime opportunity. I took it as that, and I wanted it to be like that, and it's always going to be like that for this year. If I get lucky and play well enough to be back again next year, then we would look into maybe a professional caddy. But right now, as it is, it's a family affair.
Absolutely. Just a couple more quick questions for you. Talk to me about the details we talk a lot about on this show about building your pre-shot routine, what it looks like. What does it look like for you? Is there a practice swing? Are you feeling things out? How do you see the ball flight before you hit it? What do all those things look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm 39. It changes day to day, right? But it's just a feel. I'm a big flight guy. I like to see the ball in the air, and I'm a big left to right guy. Always been. I wouldn't say I can't hit the ball right to left, but I prefer left to right just because it's natural. And at Augusta, there's not a whole lot of room on the left side ever. I mean, really, the only holes are number 1 and number 18. So I felt that really quickly because again, I'd rather not throw it out to the right and bring it back into the left side. So as far as routines are concerned, I kind of go with the flow. I've always been a kind of go with the flow guy. I'm in sales, so you gotta go with the flow. I got my daughter back here. Here I am trying to wipe her eyes off with the rain getting in there from her hair, and we are talking. So you just go with it.
Callaway has afforded myself some amazing opportunities. Every year we're down at ECPC coaching some of the best juniors in the country. They have an amazing performance facility. What's in the bag of Brandon Holtz? What was the process like? When did you go down there and get fitted? Like, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, no. So I've been a Callaway guy for a long time. Never got fitted. So this year, December, I went down there for the first time and got fit. And I mean, it was great. I mean, there are some things that, again, you've want to come to the flat belly conventional golfer. That's not me. I'm a bigger guy. I'm a lot of handsy, and I got to a couple clubs that we just kind of struggle with, and it was just simply because it was just not normal to me. And so it was a great experience, and we're still trying to figure it out, and we'll get there. I mean, it's just I'm different. I'm a little different than just that golfer that's played all through high school, all through college. So yeah, no, I mean, it's Callaway's been great to me. I again love their product. That's not anything that I'm debating by any means, but yeah, no, being fit for the first time and going through that process was another experience that I got to do with all of this. Here, take a drink.
The bag gonna change at all for the U.S. Open?
Yeah, yes, I believe so. So Callaway sent me a Masters bag, and I'm pretty sure they have a U.S. Open themed bag. So, as far as the clubs are concerned, no.
Are we going with driving iron? Are we going to do anything different there?
We'll probably do a driving iron. Yeah, I mean, again, in Illinois, it's storming here. We're trying to figure out. I'm just trying to practice normal. You can't practice normal in Illinois right now just because of the rain and the wind. So, and again, Illinois coming into April is hard for us. I was doing the best I could to travel during the winter, but it's not the same, right? So I'm a little bit more confident, hopefully, that the weather changes and I'll be actually able to play a little bit more golf coming to the U.S. Open. But as of right now, yeah, we might look into a driving iron, just with firm and fast fairways, maybe keep it a little lower and kind of run it. But hard to say. I'm gonna go out to Shinnecock here in about a month. Actually, no, about 2.5 weeks to see Shinnecock for the first time. So that'll give me an idea of what shots I need to hit and what clubs I need to bring.
All right. Last question of the day is just, you're talking to a lot of guys who are amateurs, guys who shoot 78 to 85 that are on that listen to this podcast. If a guy's shooting 83 to 85, what is how did they get to the next level as someone that didn't, grind golf and junior tournament golf since the time they were 3?
Sure. A couple things. So I got a couple kind of different methods to that. Obviously, preach to the choir, short game, which is 100% true. If you want to get to that next level, you got to be able to get up and down around the greens. And it's just simply because we don't hit perfect shots every time, right? So yeah, chipping and putting is huge. Make those, if you can make a lot of those, 10-footers, you're going to help yourself. And if you can just figure out what shot, chip shot to hit around the green. Is it a flop shot? Is it like a low punch shot? Figuring out which club to hit around the green is huge. But for me, like that's a work in progress for me. My deal was always the driver. I hit it very straight. And I didn't look through the stats of the Masters, but I think we were kind of talking through it. I think for the 28 holes, I think I hit 22 or 24 fairways. So I'm not missing fairways, and that's huge in itself. But I think there's two things. The short game is always number one. The second thing is whatever you're best at, be the absolute best at. You know what I mean? So if that driver is your best club, be the absolute best at it, because that's going to overcome all the other obstacles in the way. If your putter is the best at what your game is, make every 10-footer, right? So it's going to overcompensate all the other flaws that you have in your golf game. So yes, hands down, short game is going to get you to the next level. But if you can be the best at whatever your strong suit is, and you are the best, it's just going to help you tremendously for sure.
Brandon Holtz, thank you so much for coming on the Fairway Times podcast. We really appreciate it. We are all super excited to watch you at Shinnecock, and I know a lot of us may sprinkle on a little top 25 to have some fun. Appreciate your time.
I appreciate you, Colton, and thanks again. I appreciate your patience through this storm we got, and then my daughter in the back seat. Again, happy to be on, and just trying to not be so busy, but it's a busy time, and I wouldn't want it any other way, buddy.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, and play well, my friend.
Thanks, buddy. We'll talk to you.
I like to hit bombs.
I do.
There's a lot more to winning than just, hitting bombs.
You saw him dropping all kinds of bombs off the tee. I mean, just hellacious bombs.
I have to have the ability to hit bombs. We talk about it. You got to hit long out here. Hit bombs. Todd, when I stop hitting bombs, I'll play the Champions Tour, but I'm hitting some crazy bombs.
Thanks so much for listening, everybody. Remember to hit bombs, and I will see you next time.